Do you struggle to find bass after your lake comes up 3, 4, or 5 feet overnight? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you an easy solution that will allow you to catch fish consistently even as lakes are rising rapidly. Let's get into it. Today, I'm on Beaver Lake in Arkansas. Heavy rains last week caused the lake to rise over 8 feet in just a few days. Whenever I'm faced with these conditions in the spring, I always head to the lower end of the lake and fish the main lake. While it can be tempting to go directly to shallow flooded bushes with stained water, a lot of times it takes the fish a few days to actually move into the bushes. I would say about a week on average. Because of this, you'll find that the fish are a lot easier to find and more consistent to catch if you stay towards the main lake out of the creeks and on the lower end of the lake where there is less flooded cover in the water. I decided to start on a main lake flat gravel point where I was expecting some pre-spawn and spawning smallmouth to be setting up.
There we go. Good one. On this gravel point here is going to be a big smallie. Oh yeah, there we go. Working my way up here to some rocks I marked, and I actually just started tossing the swing head on this gravel point because I know these smallmouth are going to stage up here to spawn any day now. That's a nice smallie out here for beaver. That is a solid one, almost a 3-pound smallmouth on the swing head. Beautiful fish right there. So I'm talking about, I knew I could figure out how to get some of these fish to bite in these super calm post front kind of conditions. The lake just came up 6 feet, but we are on them now. That's what I'm talking about. Here we go, guys. 2 pounds, 15 ounces, almost a 3-pound smallie. That's a beautiful fish. Good one out here on beaver. I can get back down there and gonna lock that fish in. Man, that is awesome. I think we got it figured out now, maybe a little bit. I need to find more spots like this though, because these smallmouths could be pulling up and they could be going down. There we go, guys. Got that fish on the trusty old swing head. This is the Gamakatsu 3/4 ounce 3-aught hook swing head with a Strike King Green Pumpkin Menace grub. Water's pretty clear today, anywhere from maybe 5 to 6 foot of visibility. As I mentioned, that water is coming up. So I'm trying to just cover some water out here in front of some of the flooded bushes and on some flatter gravel points where I feel like these smallmouths should be moving up to spawn. Just firing that swing head out there, letting it hit the bottom, and then winding it back. I probably will pick up a few other baits as well once I start dialing in exactly where these fish are setting up, but the swing head is just my best tool right now for covering water and establishing a pattern.
After catching my first fish, I decided to regraph the point I was fishing to see if I could see anything irregular on it that I could replicate. Unfortunately, most of the points on the lower end of beaver where these smallmouth will set up in the pre-spawn and the spawn don't look that remarkable on side scan or down scan. Instead, I find the best approach is to figure out the correct slope and depth the fish are setting in. In general, I find the bass that are using these flat, gradual sloping points are going to be setting up in one of 4 depth zones: 0 to 8 feet, 8 to 15 feet, 15 to 25 feet, or 25 to 35 feet. In addition, they're going to be setting up around a certain type of slope, whether that's the flattest section of the point, the steeper sides of the point, or where the slopes transition from being steeper to flatter. On a contour map, this is where the contour lines go from being really close together to more spread apart. Over the years, I found that it's a lot more effective to actually just fish these points and target these different combinations of slope and depth until you get bit, and then replicate that on different points, rather than trying to graph for fish specifically. In the springtime, a lot of the bass are going to be spread out, basically getting ready to spawn, and they're not going to be set up in big giant groups. They're easy to see on a fish finder. Later in the year, as water temperatures get warm and the bass get done spawning, they will set up in bigger groups, and I'll show that in future videos. But in this pre-spawn and early spawn time of the year, you really won't see that much on your fish finder when you graph these points. So instead of trying to rely on seeing fish with my side imaging and down scan views, I prefer to just use a bait like a swing head and cover the points in different depths, again, till I start getting bit, then running that same depth and slope combination, and usually I can catch a lot more fish.
There we go, finally. Goodness. I've missed like 4 or 5 fish, guys, on the swing head already. I think it's a lot of these little goobers, but I've missed so many on the swing head already. These are actually a pretty decent smallmouth. I don't know why they're not eating it super well, but I can't figure out another bait that actually will get them to commit. But I have this pattern dialed now, guys. That is a fat, small, beautiful little fish. Look at that thing right there. Absolutely gorgeous smallie out here, and I think I probably should have 4 or 5 in the boat by now. I need to start experimenting with some baits to try to figure this out, because the swing head is definitely the most efficient tool for covering water. That's the reason I'm throwing it right now. And I actually fished another point earlier and missed 3 more fish. My bait was all torn up and everything, so I know there were fish that were biting. So I need to figure out something other than the swing head. Maybe it's good to kind of determine where on these points the fish are, but after I start getting bites, I need to put it up, and I'm gonna experiment with a few other baits, because there might be something a little bit better to get them to actually commit. Got him. Oh my gosh, first cast, okay. Found the bait finally. It's not feel like a big one, but I missed so many on that swing head. I finally had to try something different. And first cast with a little Ned Rig here. Got a fish. Actually feels like a decent one. Now these fighting here just swimming right at me. Decent fish. Don't know how big it is. It looks pretty good. Another smallie here. I literally missed 2 on the cast before this. And sometimes you just have to downsize, guys. You can't be stubborn. And I want to find them with that swing head because it's so much easier to find them. That is a really nice smallmouth, actually. I thought that was a little guy. That is just on a little Ned head. It is a football Ned head with the new Yamamoto covert crawl. Little tiny creature bait. That was literally my first cast with this bait. So found the bait that we need to be throwing. That is a beautiful smallmouth right there. Oh my gosh. There we go. Another 3-pound smallie right there. Man, that is awesome. I didn't realize that fish was that big for whatever reason. But absolutely beautiful fish right there. Let's get back down the lake. There we go, guys. That's the bait apparently we need to be throwing. That little Yamamoto covert craw. It has some floating pincers on it. This is just a jewel peewee football head. It's a little tiny football jig head, and it's 7/16 of an ounce despite being that small. And basically I'm just on another flat rounded pea gravel point, and I'm just running the pattern now. I actually didn't graph this point. I just pulled up and started fishing. I've got enough bites in a row now where I know what the points look like that I need to be fishing. And I actually got 2 casts in a row, or 2 bites on the same cast with that swing head, and immediately caught one with this. So maybe there's more than just a couple fish here, or that one fish is just super aggressive and is down here on a bed. All I'm doing with this Ned Rig, I mean, honestly, I just threw it out, hit the bottom, and I moved it just a little bit, and he sucked it in. So I can't really say I'm doing anything super fancy with this bait. I think what's happening is these smallmouth are just out here spawning or getting ready to spawn. They're sitting out here in anywhere from about, I would say about 15-ish feet of water. I have my mapping pulled up here, and basically on my mapping here, I'm trying to keep my boat in that like 15-ish foot zone on the mapping where my depth shading is, and then firing in that 15 to 20 foot. Nothing crazy, and I'm just trying to slowly drag that Ned Rig through this area, but I'm able to locate the fish a lot easier with the swing head compared to working this really light Ned Rig through this area. So I still feel like the swing head is the right call overall in locating where I need to be fishing, but I guess if I want to be putting this fish in the boat, I need to be throwing this Ned, because I mean, if I had been, hung up here, if I had been, I feel like I would have already had a limit of fish in the boat. Got him. There we go. Another point here, guys. Another fish on the swing head. I'm talking about. And how good this one is. Feels like another decent one. Another nice smallie here. Man, I want to throw that little Ned head, but throwing the swing is just so much easier. It's a nice keeper right there. Just a male, but nice little fish. You can see that fish though is barely hooked on the outside of the mouth. These fish are just not super aggressive. There we go, solid 2-pounder right there. Nice little male smallie. I love catching the smallies again on that swing head. Nothing crazy, just working another point here. It's the exact same look, exact same feel as all the points. We just have a pattern now, and I can basically just put my boat right in the depth zone based on my depth shading in that like 15 to 20 foot zone of depth shading, and then just fire my swing head onto the point where it's a little bit flatter. And as long as I'm keeping that bait kind of in that flatter zone of these points, in that 15 to 20 foot zone, I'm getting bit on almost every single one I'm running. So not a bad deal right now. I just don't know exactly why I can only get like one fish per point. You would think you could catch more. I've been getting more than one bite per point. I'm just only catching one fish per point. So kind of an interesting deal there, but there's plenty of points that I can run. And it's nice that I have a nice pattern going where I've been bit on 5 or 6 different points already now. So it is definitely a solid pattern today. And I'm gonna walk you through my swing head retrieve one more time. Got a 3/4 ounce swing head here. And again, I'm just trying to line up with my mapping up here, casting into that 15 to 20 foot zone and trying to make as long of a cast as I can, trying to get that bait away from the boat. We are in 7 to 8 feet of water visibility down here by the dam, so you want that bait as far away as possible. I then let that bait sink to the bottom. It doesn't take that long because it's a 3/4 ounce head. I then engage my reel, point my rod tip at the water, and then just start slowly winding that bait in. My goal is to work that bait as fast as I can while maintaining bottom contact. Because I'm fishing down there in 15 to 20 feet, it's a pretty slow reel on this deal. I'm not working it super fast, just to make sure I'm maintaining that bottom contact. Every once in a while, I might stop it, let that bait fall just a little bit to make sure it gets back down those rocks, and just slowly winding that thing in. I'm using a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel here, so I'm reeling it a little bit slower maybe than if you were throwing like a 6-4-to-1 or something like that. But main thing is just maintaining bottom contact, and then when you feel them, you just set the hook like that. That was a good retrieve demonstration because I literally about to catch one on this cast. So not a big fish, just a little guy, but that's how it's done. Just a little, what do we got here? Just a little smallmouth. That is how that retrieve is done, guys. That was a pretty good demonstration. I think I did a good job there. Nice little fish. That's 2 fish off this point now, so that's kind of a nice deal. I think a lot of the fish I'm missing too are those little tiny guys like that. But we've had some pretty decent quality today overall. I mean, I think if I'd been throwing that Ned Rig in addition to the swing head, there's a really good chance I probably would have had 5 good keepers in the boat, just because there was like 3 points in a row where I never caught a fish, but I had like 3 bites per point, and I just was stubborn and stuck with that swing head. But I want to keep running a few more of these points just to see, because it'd be really cool if I could get a limit for like 15 pounds of just smallmouth, but maybe that's not in the card today. We'll just see. Oh my gosh, the fish hit it on the fall. I thought that I had cast into the channel or something, but that fish literally hit it on the fall. That's wild. It's the benefit of bombing that bait out there though. Get far away from the boat and they just come up and get it pretty easily. These smallmouth are pretty aggressive. I'm shocked that it's getting this hard to catch them on the swing head just from how aggressive these smallmouth usually are. It's a nice keeper though right there, and they're solid 2-pounder, 15-incher. And you know, I feel like this swing head, I keep picking it back up, and it's the most efficient way for me to catch these fish by far compared to throwing the Ned. But like on the last point I just fished, I missed another really good one. So let me find my Menace scrubs. I don't know what happened to them. There we go, got re-rigged here. But anyways, so that swing head is definitely the most effective way for me to cover water on these big, kind of expansive rounded points that take a lot of casts to cover. And even though I threw that Ned Rig and caught a fish in my first cast, I did miss 2 more fish on it, and it's like probably half as efficient, where it takes me twice as long to cover a point, maybe even 3 times as long with that Ned Rig compared to that 3/4 ounce swing head. The other thing I like about the swing head is I can bomb that thing out there and get it really far away from the boat. And the water visibility down here by the dam, the further we get towards the dam, it's getting clearer and clearer. And like right over on that point over there, I can probably see the bottom in 10 foot of water. So with 10 foot of water visibility, you need to get that bait far away from the boat. And even with that Ned Rig, casting it and everything, it's not that bad, but obviously I can cast the swing head further with a bait caster and everything that I can with that little Ned Rig. So it helps out from that perspective too. And I just feel like the swing head is my best shot at getting the most bites in a given day, even if I'm going to sacrifice some fish that are not committing fully. I'm just going to get in front of more fish and give myself more chances. if I could find something that was kind of in between. I've thrown some swim baits, I've thrown some other, you know, more finessier stuff. It's just I really want like a crawfish imitating bait. So the swing head is what has been effective for me, what seems to be working. And maybe I'll be able to figure out a different bait one of these days. I'm sure that you guys are going to be leaving comments letting me know what I should be trying. Just so you guys know, obviously there's baits I could be throwing right now, but given the depth of water and the way I'm fishing and everything, I do feel like this is something that's very efficient. And so, throwing a shaky head out here or throwing I don't know, whatever else you guys might recommend, it might be a little bit tricky just given the situation, how I'm fishing. But hopefully I've explained it well enough that you understand how I'm fishing. And obviously the swing head is still getting some in the boat, getting some bites. Here's a second fish off this spot. So it's not that bad. It's just, I don't know why they're eating it. Maybe they're eating it a little bit better this afternoon. That's a good fish right there too. That's a really solid one. It's another good fish. My goodness. Maybe I just need to keep chunking the swing head and dealing with the missed fish. That's a nice one. He's pooping on me here too. Let me get that nice one right there. Solid 2.5 pounder, a 2.7. That's another nice fish, guys. I'm telling you, this is a tournament pattern right here. That is a beautiful smallie. Get back down there. And I mean, the 3 I've weighed so far have weighed 8 pounds, 6 ounces. I've had 2 other keepers. So, I mean, I'd have probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 11 pounds right now, which isn't crazy, but I mean, if I get a couple more 3-pounders, you're looking at 13, 14 pounds on this pattern pretty easily, I feel like. And that's also a second fish off this same point. This is just a nice point that is pretty close to the main river channel. It sticks out pretty far. I'll show you on the CMAP mapping what it looks like. It's nothing super different from what I've been fishing. I just think that some of these points are going to have more fish on them than others just by nature. And this one is a little bit closer to the channel, so maybe because it's closer to the channel, there are a few more fish that have pulled up on it. I'm also fishing uphill, so my boat is positioned up on top of the point right now. I'm working my bait up the slope, which is something I do quite often in this time of the year in the spring, because these fish are coming from that deeper water to shallower water. So my boat probably right now is sitting in about, I would say, maybe 12 foot of water, 13 feet of water, and I'm casting out here into 25 and working my bait up. So working your bait uphill can be a really effective strategy at times. These fish don't usually see a bait coming uphill because a lot of guys like to fish from putting their boat in deep water, casting shallower. So I think it gives me a little bit of advantage. And also when that bait is coming uphill, it helps you maintain bottom contact better because you're reeling that bait up the slope rather than down the slope. So you can reel a swing head like this a little bit quicker and still maintain that bottom contact. Got him. Go. Came back to the stretch where I had a bunch of bites on the swing head and kept losing them. And I came back with this Ned head. I didn't lose them, I was just missing them. Came back with this Ned head. This is 2 casts in a row. Had a bite. First cast I didn't get them, but there's a nice little smallie on that Ned head. This is that point actually I did a graph recording on. We recorded this deal and it's kind of cool because I was able to come back here and catch him now. Anyways, I got 3 bites here with the swing head, but they just didn't want to eat it for some reason on this particular spot. But this Ned head is definitely a way to kind of pick up extra fish. The only issue I have is it's just so hard to cover water with it, as I mentioned. So I need to find them first with that swing head, but I know that down this whole stretch, I was getting bites. So I feel pretty confident now that I can slowly work this area with this Ned head and pick up extra fish, especially with these calm bluebird sky conditions. I just think this Ned head is going to be the way to go most of the time in these conditions once you know an area that has some fish. And normally, guys, I don't stay on a pattern like this for this long in my videos. I usually catch like 3 to 4 fish, then end the video, because I feel like catching more fish over and over, while it can kind of solidify what I'm teaching, it doesn't really add much more instruction to the video. So let me know what you think about this. Normally I would just try to go catch fish doing something else, but a lot of times too, I don't get to fully develop the patterns, maybe figure out all these bait adjustments and stuff like that. So I'm trying, at least for the next little while to maximize my day in these areas. There's one. There we go. Trying to catch as many as I can rather than just catching a few and then ending the video, as I mentioned. So this is a little guy. And I a lot of times cut out these little fish too. I've caught like 3 or 4 more like this today that I've just cut out of the video. Just little, you know, tiny fish. But yeah, anyways, I think there is value sometimes in just continuing to show that, hey, you can come back to these areas and you can get bites, throw in a Ned head and things like that. But just let me know down in the comments what you think, because obviously I can keep doing this, or I could go back to the idea of just showing you like 2 to 3 fish catches and then trying to film another video with a completely different pattern, because there probably are other ways to catch fish today, probably especially going in the creeks trying to target largemouth. But you know, when you stick with one pattern all day, you don't get to explore those options. At the same time though, I get to catch a lot more fish, which is fun for me at least. But anyways, let me know down in the comments what you think. Got him. There we go. And the fish here, man, there are a lot of fish on this spot. I feel like they're all smaller little males though. This point's kind of shallow. It's hard to tell though. I said that about one of these fish earlier and it was like a 3-pounder, so this one doesn't feel that big. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent fish. Another really nice smallie here. It seems like these smaller males though have pushed up on this like inner creek stuff. So, and that's a not a bad fish. It's a keeper. I'm gonna weigh it real quick just to kind of see. But I mean, it's not a bad beaver fish by any means, to be honest. Spot lock real quick. Oh, spot lock, we're good. Let me weigh this guy. I mean, it's 1 pound 14 ounces. I mean, that's not a bad beaver fish. Solid, almost 2-pounder. And I don't know, that might be a female, to be honest. I don't know for sure, but it feels like that's a male. Lock this weight in real quick. There we go. I'm always just curious about my best 5 for the day. I had one more that was about that size. It's about a 2-pounder earlier. Actually, I've had 2 like that. But anyways, let's get back over here. Again, on this more flatter rounded point that's further back into one of these creeks. And this is the only point I've actually fished that is not on the main lake today, because it's the only point back in these creeks that kind of sets up the way I want it to. And there's a lot more fish, it feels like, on this point. When I fished it earlier, I got so many bites. But they feel smaller, and I think that's why they weren't coming to that swing head super well, and I was able to get them to get this Ned rig. But it's just kind of interesting because I don't know if it's maybe a seasonal thing where the bigger females are still further out towards the main lake. Maybe they're even deeper off this point, because I am fishing here a little bit, you know, shallower. I'm fishing the same depth as I have been, but maybe back in these, further back in these creeks, the bigger females are further off, or I'm just catching males. It's kind of hard to tell, but I will say most of the fish I've been catching have been on the main lake today or just off the main lake. And that's kind of my strategy for today. As I kind of mentioned earlier, I wanted to stay more towards those main lake areas because they're less affected when this water comes up. Lake being 6 feet high and all of that, it makes it a little bit easier to find consistent fish that are easier to pattern. And you can see today I've been able to catch a lot of numbers doing this. And you know, there's probably someplace somewhere up some creek arm or whatever where you can catch 20 pounds of largemouth up shallow, but finding that and navigating to it, especially through all the trees and the debris that's flowing through the lake and river right now, would be very difficult. So I didn't want to have to deal with that, potentially damaging my equipment, as well as potentially not finding anything just because you have to cover so much water while idling. It wasn't worth it to me. And so instead, I wanted to go try this pattern, which, again, more consistent, more stable, and a ton of fun. So if you guys are out in the Ozarks right now, definitely give this pattern a try. It's probably going to be good for another week or so after I post this video, and then after that, the water's going to warm up and those fish are going to go to those shallow bushes and stuff. But definitely a fun pattern. Got them. There we go. Another fish off the spot, guys. There are a lot of fish pulled up here. Feels like a better one too. Oh, decent fish. Got a pretty good one on that Ned. Glad I came back to this spot, guys. It's a good fish. Not a big one, but just a nice fish. I love how these smallmouth fight. It's so pretty in the water. Cannot beat that, guys. Another nice keeper smallmouth. Let's just weigh this guy. It's about the same size as some of the other fish I caught, just to get my final 5. This is another, it's a 15-incher. Another keeper. I think I had one that was a little bit bigger than this, but not that big of a deal. This is a pound 11. Nice little fish. Had one probably that was a little bit bigger than that, maybe 2 pounds, but either way, that puts my 5 fish limit at about 12 pounds, as I kind of talked about earlier. 11, 14 with that fish, at least the fish I put on the scales. Probably had more around like maybe 12.5 pounds, but not too bad for about 6 hours of fishing, and actually had an absolute blast catching him on the spinning rod, which normally I'm not the biggest spinning rod guy, but it was fun catching him on this Ned Rig at least. And this is just, again, a little jewel football head, 7/16 ounce with a 2.5-inch Yamamoto covert craw. It has little pincers that float. Nice little deal right there. Pairing that with a Denali 7'4", medium heavy power, moderate fast action spinning rod in the Denali Lithium Pro lineup. And I'm actually going to put a discount code down in the description to denalirods.com, where you can get a really good discount on Denali rods using my link. So use that link down below if you need to pick up some new rods. I'm pairing that just with a Nexave spinning reel. This is, I think, a Shimano. I just picked it up at the Academy. It's like 50 bucks. And pairing that with some 15-pound braided line for my main line and 8-pound fluorocarbon for my leader line. And then for my other setup, I was just throwing a swing head. I showed it earlier, but it's just that Big Bite Baits 3/4 ounce swing head with a 3/0 hook and a Green Pumpkin Strike King Menace grub. This one's all torn up. I love that Menace grub in clear water, and then I'll throw maybe like a Rage Craw or some more aggressive kicking tail baits when I get into dirtier water. Pairing that with a Denali Lithium Pro 7'4" medium heavy fast action worm and jig rod. Again, discount code down below if you want to pick up any of these rods. I'm also throwing that with this Baits Hundo reel. I got this at the Bassmaster Classic. I'm still loving this reel. The guys at Baits gave it to me. I'm going to do a full review of it. It's the most expensive reel I own. Like, honestly, all the other reels I own are about the same as this like $400 reel. So it's nice to use, but I'm not 100% sold on using $400 reels yet. But again, I'll do a review later, and pairing that with some 14-pound fluorocarbon for my main line. So that is my setup today. That's what we did. It was a really fun day. Despite the adverse conditions, we have bluebird skies, no wind, and Beaver Lake came up 6 feet in a week. So the fishing was surprisingly good. I think it's going to improve as we get later into the week, as water temperatures start to warm up because we have warm weather coming in. I think that'll get those fish to flood to the bushes, and hopefully a lot of the debris will start to clear out so I can start throwing a frog and a buzzbait and flipping and start catching some shallow fish. So stay tuned. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this new video format for Fish the Moment. And other than that, we'll see you guys in the next video.